NDTC, but I was a member of Movement Dance Company for
So
several
was
years.
it a professional thing or was it an amateur thing?
Well, back in those days, we didn't really get paid for dancing.
But
I think so. You don't call it professionally, but essentially, 6 days a week after work or after school or whatever, I did that.
That's a kind of confusing. So, how you play football and dance at the same time?
Well, I want to tell you that my parents were not. No, they were happy with the dance. They were not so happy with the football.
Yeah, because
when I started.
You're either athletic or you're artistic.
Well, I figured you would risk injury, but I don't know if you say no. A lot of footballers and all of that, they recognize the need for flexibility for muscle health.
Right.
So it actually works well if you are doing exercises that help you with flexibility and your fitness as well.
Many people don't know that your father is a famous Jamaican.
He was, yeah.
God rest his soul.
Yeah.
He was a very good man.
Yeah, he was a very, very good
Tell us
man.
a little bit about your father.
My father was from Petersfield, Westmoreland, and he moved to Kingston. His family moved him to Kingston, where they felt that because he seemed to show potential.
And people don't know who he is. Anthony
Johnson. Anthony
former
Smith
senator, historian.
Honorable right. Anthony Smith Road Johnson, because he got an OJ. He got
right.
an OJ for his national service. He moved to Kingston, and where he attended Kingston College. And to this day, I have to tell you that KC old boys greet me with the Fortis everywhere in the world.
Somebody said more girls go to KC than boys. Is that true?
I cannot tell you that. But I can tell you that the old boys continue to hold him in great esteem. He actually wrote the book, The History of Kingston College.
He wrote several books, I hear.
Yes, he wrote several books. He wrote on Kingston, the history of Kingston, and Shipping Association, St. Anne, as a garden parish, and several other things. He was very accomplished. He started off as a journalist, agricultural reporter. He used to go across the island and report back on what's happening in the farm world. And then he became a reporter at the Gleaner, and then he got a scholarship to go away and do a degree. And from there, he went into economics, and he then became the second executive director of the PSOJ, and then he was invited to join the Senate, and then he became Minister of State in Agriculture and Industry and Commerce and all sorts of things.
Great man. So tell us, what were you doing before you became a senator?
I was a lawyer. I worked.
So you're a lawyer?
I am a lawyer, yes, but I'm not practicing anymore.
Right.
But I did start off at a small firm, Clinton Hart & Co., and I moved from there to Cable and Wireless, then Lime, then Flow, of course, the same company. And then I left there after 13 years. I'd become vice president of corporate and regulatory.
You lived that totally different life. Another totally different
life.
Politics.
Corporate and dance, and those were the things that I spent most of my time doing.
But 13 years as a lawyer, that's a long time.
Yeah, I left as vice president of regulatory affairs and corporate secretary for the company and for the foundation, because I used to be quite active in the foundation as well.
So what kind of law did you practice? Corporate?
Commercial, corporate, clearly, IT related, regulatory matters.
That's information technology.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have settled that you are actually a person and you do exist. So
outside of the Senate and outside of the ministry. No,
but,
all of this is absolutely. There was a life. Now there is no life. No, there's none of that.
Somebody wants to know if you're actually married for true, or you just say that for keep people away. I'm serious. I'm
married for true. But I will tell you that a big joke that I have, my best friend from law school, when she used to come to judge, she's Trini, but she works in Cayman. Every time she came and we were supposed to have dinner, my husband was somehow not free. So we had a joke. I don't know. So if you're of our age and used to watch Sesame Street, I don't know if you remember Snuffy.
Yes, Snuffy.
So she has nicknamed my husband Snuffy, Snuffleupagus, because he was just never around, and I would say he is real.
No man, your husband, I know him very well. He's a really cool guy. So you have one of the most challenging, people would say, one of the most demanding jobs in the government. Yeah. Question: do you spend more time in Jamaica than you do on a plane?
I'm going to have to match that out. I am not sure. I really would have to check.
How many passports have you used since you've been Minister of Foreign Affairs?
I currently possess 3 passports because there are different visas in different passports.
How many you have in the drawer that you're not using anymore?
No, it's 3 passports that I have. 3 passports.
So you haven't finished any passports since you've been Minister?
Yes, I've finished 2.
Oh God.
But I still have valid visas.
I don't know how you do it, you know.
Well, you know, one interesting thing that I will share with you that in some discussions that with former Prime Minister Patterson, he had shared with me, because we talked on a couple issues that he found, apart from being Prime Minister, when he was Foreign Minister, he found that was the most demanding and the most intellectually demanding ministry and exercise which he undertook apart from being Prime Minister.
So,
and I understood and empathized 100%.
So let us try to give the viewers and listeners an understanding of what it means to be Minister of Foreign Affairs. So let me give a scenario. So you have to go to the UN for the UN General Assembly every year. The Prime Minister usually goes for the Monday, but you're there before in many cases.
I'm there before, and I definitely am there after.
So tell us, when you leave Jamaica and you land off the plane to go to the UN, what happens next?
The first thing I do is do a briefing with my team to see if there have been any,
is like
where we sit down and discuss exactly what we're doing on the week, whether anything.
And it's 1 week of work.
And we have planning for this. We've been planning for this. But between when I left Jamaica and when I landed, things could have shifted. So the first thing we do is a briefing to establish what has changed, if anything, for the week, to finalize the priority. If we had conflicting meetings, how we can assign other people.
How many meetings on average you would probably have for the UN?
You're asking me for data that if I had the time to measure it, I would, but I don't.
Because I travel with the PM and we jump from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting.
All day.
And we don't even have lunch sometimes.
No, definitely.
And it's very interesting because because it takes place so far outside of Jamaica, people don't see it.
No, they don't feel it. I mean, I make it clear that I think maybe less than a third of the work that I actually do is what you would see on my social media or the ministry's social media, because there's so much work that takes place behind the scenes to make things happen. So people might say, you know, the photo, the picture of a toast at a national day, but they don't think about the relationship building, the speech writing, the engagement and the partnership that goes behind that feeling of fraternity that gives rise to that toast and how it is shared. People see, you know, you sitting in a meeting, you know, or a handshake, because we always
and they don't know
take a picture, but they don't know what led up to the handshake. They don't know the amount of preparation that it takes to absorb all the data and about this person and to meet and engage with them in a way that has them feeling comfortable and engaged with Jamaica through me, and ensuring that we therefore feel like we are partners and that we can work in partnership to support Jamaica's national development goals. They don't see that, they just see the picture.
So let us jump to something that you actually did. So I remember when we just came into government, Jamaica and Trinidad were at war. Oh, yeah. Well, not literally at war, but we were having a tough time. People were cussing that they couldn't get the parties in.
People were being
even I was harassed when I reached the airport. They harassed me. Yeah. And immediately as you came in, you engaged with Trinidad.
Yes,
how did you pull that off?
Well, the first thing we had to do was to ask the cabinet for some time, because I don't know if you remember, private sector was calling for boycotts. So there were different senses of what needed to be done to show our strength or to you know, negotiate. And I had asked that to be given some time to engage diplomatically. And I would have been a new minister, so this would have been some great faith. The Prime Minister gave me a week. And we engaged. I established a call with with who was then the new Minister of Foreign Affairs on that side. He's no longer there. He's posted as an ambassador elsewhere. But we worked through some steps that were necessary. I stated our concern about the treatment of Jamaicans and the importance of the relationship and the need to demonstrate tangibly that
So can we
that we should
patties?
not give out. Yes, we do.
We
can export
patties to
patties
Trinidad
and
now?
other things as well. But apart from that,
yes.
they renovated a section in the airport. There was a long thing about whose responsibility it is, airline, government, whatever, and they renovated a state so that if persons were not landed, they could be they could stay in a place of dignity and cleanliness, which was not happening before. And that and the immigration officials they mandated a recurring training program so that they would deal with us differently. And
so Jamaicans now have a better
the returns fell massively.
So they stopped sending home as many Jamaicans.
Right. And you will always have people who are not landed because there are people who take different who take different approaches to travel and why they travel. But one of the things we also did was to educate Jamaicans about what they needed to know or to do when they were traveling as well. So they needed to know that they needed to be able to demonstrate that they could take care of themselves. They couldn't just, somebody said, send them a ticket and they go. They had to know where they're staying. They have to know how they're going to be able to take care of themselves or who's going to help take care of them. Because sometimes when you can't answer those questions, it's flagged like human trafficking or it's flagged as illegal work. And so they might not understand why they are not landed. But sometimes if you're just not able to answer the questions properly, you are flagged. So we were able to educate people more about traveling within CARICOM and what you needed if you were planning to work, which was the skill certificate. And which may change soon, as a matter of fact, but maybe we'll talk about that later.
But hold on. So Jamaicans now have it easier traveling to places like Trinidad.
Absolutely, yes.
I don't want to jump to immigration yet because I want to go to several other things.
Okay.
So the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is based in Kingston.
Yes.
But you have like little offices all over the world, right?
We do. We have 19 missions.
What is a mission?
An embassy or a high commission or a consulate general.
So what happens at
and
these
then
places?
In addition to that, we have, and I have expanded the number, we have 95 honorary consuls in different countries across the world. And they are volunteers. They are not paid. So you have a way to expand our diplomatic footprint without actually costing the taxpayer.
So we have an embassy in Bahamas?
We don't have an embassy. We have an honorary consul in Bahamas.
What do you mean honorary? Like the person does it for free?
There's a small stipend provided to some of them that have heavy demands.
But why would somebody do work
because
for free?
They want to be associated with Jamaica. The visibility gives them a standing within the country that they have chosen to live, or if they're not Jamaican, because all of them are Jamaican. Yeah.
So you're telling me that there are people who are working, like helping Jamaicans with their immigration issues in countries
for free.
Volunteer.
Yeah. And they apply and we vet them. And another thing that we did was I implemented a period of time, because what I found when I became minister was that some of them had been in place for so many years and nobody had touched base with them, and they were old and no longer providing service. So although people would try to get through, there was no way to get through. We have listed all of their information on the website, so mfaft.gov.jm. You can actually just go on the website and find the name and contact information by country for someone. If you happen to be in a country
that we don't have
any embassy, which is most countries clearly, because we only have 19, then you can try and you lose your passport. Then that is the person that you would call to help you.
So let's talk about losing my passport.
Passports are PICA. Firstly, let me say that. But if I lose,
but I know that the ministry houses people in their consulates that help people with all these problems. So if I lose my passport in let's say I go for a week in Florida, and
you still need a police report, because people will do these things for fraud.
So
they'll say they lose it, but they give it to somebody else to try to work.
Police that
you have to report to the police.
And I bring the report to who?
To the consulate, and then they will submit it to PICA. And there will have to be an application for a new passport, to be
So can I, as a Jamaican overseas, come to one of your consulates and apply for a passport?
Absolutely. But remember, you can now apply online for your passport if your passport was machine readable. So once it was issued after 2010, and once it was an adult passport, because they don't do it for children because of the many variations that can happen there, then you can apply online and you get it, you pay with your credit card, you upload your photo, and you will get it by DHL. Or
they ship it to you. Many people don't know that they could apply through the consulate.
but you don't have to go into the consulate.
Or you
You
can
can do
apply
it from
online.
your home. You can apply online once it's machine readable and an adult passport.
What if I get in trouble in, let's say, New York? What do I do as a Jamaican?
What kind of trouble?
Let's say I'm accused wrongfully of shoplifting.
All right. Well, that's a police matter, and we do not provide legal assistance, right? But if you feel that apart from them, they have public defenders, and if you feel your human rights are being abused, you weren't allowed to have a lawyer. You feel that your rights weren't explained to you, etc. And so for any crime, then you can report it to the consulate, and they will try to guide you to either an NGO or lawyers who are known to the consulate who do that kind of work. Because we clearly could not. We have almost 3 million Jamaicans overseas. And imagine our legal aid here has constraints as well. So imagine if we were to try to offer legal services to Jamaicans overseas.
So what other help does the consulate offer to Jamaicans?
Emergency assistance, crisis assistance. Like during COVID, we stretched and moved how it is. We assisted people. We assisted with accommodation when people had their flights when the flights shut down and their visas were either canceled or their jobs, they were made redundant. We helped to find transitional accommodation, although accommodation is not something we generally do for obvious reasons. How could we find accommodation for Jamaicans generally who travel privately? So that would be stretching our resources beyond what is possible.
So let's talk about COVID. I hear that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was the entity that really went out there and got a lot of the vaccines.
Yeah, I'm very proud of the work that we did. Prime Minister and Cabinet appointed me as chair of our External Support Coordination Committee, which sought to ensure that the needs of various ministries could be met through our engagement with third-party countries or international organizations, which is what we do generally, but this was special purpose now. And over the period of time, we secured assistance valued at more than $12 million US. So our COVID reports, or COVID support.
That is like
that's
the
PPE,
that we
vaccines, new equipment,
what is PPE,
oxygen,
Minister? Most people don't know
personal protective equipment.
That's the thing that the doctors
That's the
wear.
masks and the gowns and the shoes and the gloves and the
I think
wipes.
You're talking too fast.
Oh, sorry.
I want to hear it again. So you're saying that your ministry, working with the government,
$12 million US worth of support for COVID during COVID.
And this wasn't just vaccine, because some people have problems with vaccine.
This is one entity, and in fact, we visited them the other day.
Right.
Provided us with $800,000 worth of personal protective equipment that went across all our hospitals across the island. That was one shipment that we had gotten. And it came in more than one shipment. But when you think about it, remember a mask in the hospital, they can't wear it, all week. That is, so they go through this, they used to go through the equipment, protective equipment really quickly. So it was one of the priorities that we had to try to secure that, because remember, supply chains were broken. So countries even more powerful than us could not get what they needed. So
but there was a shortage of masks at one point in time.
Everything. So I think it was one of the best ways of demonstrating the importance of relationships and the importance of the ministry building relationships. So sometimes you would say, well, why would minister be at that meeting in that country? But the relationship is important. When we had vaccines that were on cycle and we didn't get the ones that we were supposed to get, and I was able to call my colleague, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Mexico, to say, we know you have this kind of vaccine. Can you please? And they sent it within less than 2 weeks by military plane, no cost to us whatsoever.
So, all right. So
that's relationships.
Here's why I want to delve deeper into this. Here's why I want to delve deeper into this, because as I said to you, a lot of the work that you do, people don't know about it.
No, it is behind. A lot of it is behind the scenes, and a lot of it, the value of it is that it is done behind the scenes, not in a way that's hidden or hiding anything, but just because the nature of the work sometimes is sensitive, so it allows, it's just better done that way.
By the way, somebody on TikTok said that they saw a U.S. submarine and U.S. is invading Jamaica, and then they see a plane at the airport. and that means that US going to take over Jamaica. Is that true, Minister?
No, not at all. But I did tour the submarine.
You went
sorry, you're not allowed in the submarine, but I did tour the ship that was here, and I did see and walk on top of the submarine.
So you're going to help the people them take over the country?
No, they weren't here to take over
the country. You know the
reason
I asked the question
They
like
were here, but please, no, let me say why
Yes.
they were here very quickly. They were here for rest and recreation.
So they came on vacation, essentially.
And they love scotches. They love jerk. They spent money in Otorios. If you ask the people on the ground,
hold on a second,
they enjoy themselves on rest and recreation here in Jamaica.
Before you finish the explanation. All right, so let us go over
and
it
many
again.
of them will come back as tourists now.
So the submarine wasn't here to take over the country. They were here for the jerk chicken.
They had actually been on exercises in the region. I don't know if you know, but there are, we often do military exercises that where different military forces cooperate, and so they learn from each other. They practice how to rescue people, how to react in the event of a war or a disaster. And these are things that happen across militaries across the world. The US is one of our strongest security partners, and they of course have clearly strong security partnerships throughout the region, Latin America and the Caribbean, etc. And there had been a particular exercise in Latin America on part of their routing, and on their routing back to the US, they stopped here in Jamaica for a few days. Both the destroyer and the.
It's very important that we explain this, because what is happening a lot on social media is that people see something
and then it becomes
a big deal. So for example, they saw the plane come at the airport, and then they saw the ship, and they were like, oh, remember said they would have something over Cuba the other day, so the US send whatever. Not realizing said the people them just come for some jerk chicken.
Yes, it was part of their routing back. It's part of their routing back. And it did a lovely tour, and my husband was with me on the tour because he likes that kind of thing. Snuffy was present.
So all right, so Minister, we're gonna get into some more serious things now.
Of course.
You mentioned Mexico.
Yeah.
Why are so many Jamaicans going through Mexico to get to the United States?
I understand that the numbers are down, firstly.
So less people are going.
Yes, but it's still, the US has changed their policy. So one, of course, they have a thing now that if you cross the border illegally and you are identified and deported, you are banned from even applying for a regular tourist visa for 5 years. So I think people are.
So you can't even get a visitor's visa
if you enter illegally.
Right.
It's just like people who overstay.
Right.
If you overstay and you think it's okay, you're up there and it's no big deal. You stay for another month because you're having a good time, or you meet somebody who you want to spend more time with, whatever it is. You think it's okay, but when you overstay, when you return to Jamaica, you may not be able to apply for a visa again, or when you get it, rather, you'll be turned down. And that's a big thing for a lot of people. Some people feel like they're smarter than the system, but it is not the case. And the systems are becoming more sensitive, and they're sharing more information. So, for example, we know that there are people being turned back from Panama as well, because what they were starting to do is say, okay, well, if you're coming from Jamaica, or you're coming from, and remember, Panama is how most people get to Mexico. So sometimes they're turned back from Panama before they get to Mexico. And maybe you had an old conviction, you don't even remember about it in the US, and you're going to Panama, but the US and Panama now share a lot of information. So it's going to flag you in Panama. And if they had asked you a question and you did not answer correctly, and it is, they have picked up the system from the information they're shared with the US, then they will turn you back. And that is a lot of what has been happening. Even as a matter of fact, we had some seniors the other day who were traveling with a group organized by a travel agency, a church group, but it was organized at the last minute.
Right.
So they didn't really have any information. They just knew they were going, and they were going to enjoy themselves, and they trusted that the people who organized it had organized it well.
Right.
And they were held, they were not landed. So someone reached out to me, and we thankfully, because of the time that the flight landed, we were able to reach somebody who was able to reach through our mission in Mexico, was able to reach the immigration, a colleague of theirs at the Foreign Affairs Minister of Mexico, who was able to reach immigration, because you cannot generally reach immigration. And they were able to assure them that these were persons of good repute who are going on for touristic travel, and they allowed them through. But it doesn't always happen if you don't answer the questions or it flags you. So we are engaging with Panama and Mexico on these matters, which cause us concern, where it seems to us that they are even gone beyond persons who are traveling illegally and starting to affect our legitimate travelers.
And that's where I want to go. What impact does it have when Jamaicans try to go illegally through either Belize, Panama, or one of these countries?
It changes our profile. Fundamentally, it changes our profile, the profile of our travelers, and it makes it more difficult for us to lobby for visa facilitation, for example. It's one of the things that are taken into consideration. I don't know if you remember the other day, the Canadians offered an expanded ETA program, and it was being seen.
ETA mean, Minister?
Electronic travel authorization.
Okay.
But people were hearing it as visa-free, that Canada is now offering visa-free travel to 5 more countries.
Did Canada
and Jamaica
offer visa-free travel?
No. What they did was they expanded their electronic travel authorization program for persons who either held Canadian visas before or were holders of US visas. And they were like, but why didn't Jamaicans
TikTok say it's visa free and we never get the visa because whatever.
Well, let me tell you why. Because I actually had a formal meeting. Not only did I have an informal discussion with their foreign ministry, but I had asked their High Commissioner to come in to meet with me. I was away when it happened. When I was back in Jamaica, I asked her to come and meet with me, which she did, and asked that they explain one of the things that Jamaicans do. So the first thing is that our refusal rate for visa applications was double the threshold that they had for countries that were eligible for ETA. And why are our people refused at such a high rate? Because we don't complete the form. So people feel that we're being dishonest. So if they ask you if you have been convicted in a country, and this may be from, a non-payment of a travel ticket and they have a warrant issued somewhere, and you don't say that it is this, they mark it as a lie, as a dishonest response. If they ask you, if you're married and you say you're single, or, anything like that.
So hold on. So if you lie on your visa form,
yes,
you don't get the visa.
And not only are you unlikely to get your visa, but it's flagged against Jamaicans generally. Please let me share another thing, because everybody has to understand this one. We use unauthorized agents. So we think that any travel agent can apply for your visa for you. But the Canadians have a list of authorized agents on their webpage. And we go to all manner of
Minister, you
yes,
talk.
And let me tell you why it's a problem for them.
Yes.
Because there are people who apply for example, Freddie McGregor.
Yes.
A known artist who travels regularly.
Yes.
So he will be applying for his visa and through an agent.
Yes.
And the agent add on 4 random people.
That Freddie don't know nothing about.
No, so they're not on. And please, this is not happening to Freddie McGregor. I'm just using him as a well-known artist.
Let me take out Freddie. Let's say a well-known dancehall artist.
A well-known dancehall artist. Right. So they will add on 3 random people.
On your list.
And they recognize that this type of activity takes place with some of the unauthorized. So they don't accept from any and everybody. So when you use an unauthorized agent, you are likely to be, not only will you be refused just for that, but you are adding up the statistics for Jamaicans who act outside of the system.
So wait.
Plus the number of Jamaicans who overstay, plus the number of Jamaicans who travel on a tourist visa legitimately granted and then seek asylum for some other reason there.
So Minister, why?
There are a number of things.
So Minister, but you talk about Canada. We're getting back to Canada.
Yeah.
Why Britain now want to free up the visa, man? Look how we are part of Britain, and Britain just now want to free up the visa.
2003 was when the British government took a decision to stop allowing Jamaicans
to
travel visa free. Again, the list of issues, people were sending children and not unaccompanied and not sending them back. So they became a burden on the state.
And they were basically that's human trafficking then.
Well, that's what they would call it now. But they would say they're sending up the child.
So people
for the
would
summer,
send up Pitney
and they
and the
would send
Pitney
them back.
just disappear.
People would go but not be qualified to travel and therefore not be landed. So instead of being refused a visa on this side, they would be refused to be landed in the UK, and it was becoming a massive cost to return people to Jamaica, and a massive administrative difficulty for them at the airport and at immigration, and the number of drugs that were being trafficked on that route, as well as the number of, by the way,
somebody from TikTok say you need a water break.
Thank you. But let me just finish this before I take my water break. And thank you very much, you kind person that's thinking about me, unlike Minister Morgan. But one of the other things is that a lot of people don't know this, is that Jamaicans are one of the highest, we have one of the highest incidents or one of the highest prison populations in the UK. We're in the top 10 and no one else in the Caribbean. So every time they ask us about why this country and why not Jamaica?
Why Jamaicans now get the visa free?
Jamaicans make up one of the top 10 highest
you need
members
to say it,
of the prison population.
Why you don't say it or them understand it? We don't get too much trouble.
Yeah, so it is. So this is something.
So much trouble.
So we try. I have been advocating.
So it's not the government that block people from getting the visa?
No. I wish it were, because then it would be within my power. I am still advocating.
You're trying.
I still speak to them about the relationship that is bigger than that. I still try to ask them to look at how we can share the kind of information that would help them think about us differently. Look at the fact that we have a new electronic passport that has a higher level of security, that we have hardened our borders and the ability for fraud to be carried out in respect of our passports.
Mm-hmm.
And I speak about all of these things to try to have them look at us differently in terms of travelers. I've spoken about how the drug trafficking has come down and how much we are trying to deal with the issues at our ports. And trust me when I tell you I try. But it's still difficult when some of the facts are against you.
You said something a while ago that shocked me, and I think it shocked a lot of people in this studio. Did you say that in the prison population in the UK, of all the countries in the Caribbean, Jamaica is the most?
Not only the most, we're the only one in the top 10. And at one point, we're in the top 5.
What do you mean top 10?
Of the highest number of of members of our population imprisoned for crime.
You mean of all the countries in the world or the Caribbean?
All of the populations that are represented in the UK. Yes, not Caribbean. No.
I don't believe you. No.
Yes, this is why it is hard. This is what I'm telling you. But these are not things I like to talk about, because I am telling a bad story.
Man. You have to talk
I do not like to talk about the negative things about my country, regardless. So it has been difficult. And this is why sometimes you take the cussing, but just try to work on it, because then. So I'm here being frank.
Yes.
Right? But
Minister, here's why I'm going to ask the question. When the stories come out, people go on the live and they say, oh, the government are block people from get visa, the government this, the government that. So you need to tell people, why is it that some countries don't want to give us visa? And I'm very happy that even though it is so difficult, you still try every day to get more visa-free access.
Absolutely. And there are countries that we can travel visa-free to.
Like which one? Tell me some of them.
Ghana, Nigeria. Nigeria, we still have an issue there. Sorry about that.
Right.
Thailand, although I think Thailand did something in COVID that I think might be adjusted.
Well, a lot of South American countries.
Of course, Panama, Mexico, which is why all of this has been distressing me, because I don't want Mexico and Panama to change their policy.
You want us to keep having visa-free travel to Mexico and Panama.
Absolutely, and it's very difficult when people don't think about the wider impact of their actions and how it is affect. I mean, this wonderful group of wonderful church ladies, you can imagine, they're there now, the new experience of their lives, and they are held in this airport because there are other people on the flight who also can't answer questions, but for different reasons. And they are now lumped as part of a possible trafficking. No, man, these things are very painful. And they take a lot of effort on the ministry's part to try and sort them out. When you get a late night flight, it becomes impossible because you can't get anybody at immigration at those times.
So let us move from immigration a second.
Oh, okay, sure.
Why
that's not us. That's
why so many foreign dignitaries coming to Jamaica, Minister?
Because we are...
Is a part of the plot to take over the country?
And everybody else is small fries. That's why. That's why. I know you want me to answer seriously, but yes, you
had the UN guy come, you had the World Bank guy come,
the head of the World Bank, the new president of the World Bank, the head of the IDB.
And before that, you have Kagame.
We had Kagame come, the first president of India to ever visit our shores, came for our Jamaica 60.
Has so many foreign dignitaries ever visit Jamaica officially?
I don't know. I would have to look back, but I think it's 1960 something since the UN Secretary General came here.
And that is Antonio Guterres.
Yes. So Jamaica is very well regarded on the international scenes. I know sometimes people try to politicize these things and maybe try to bring me down personally or whatever. You know how people have them.
But Minister, no, man. Jamaica,
no. So they like to say that we no longer.
But nothing now go on good at Jamaica, Minister. Nothing good now go on here. Why so much foreign people decide to come here?
So much good is happening here, and we have so much credibility overseas because we advocate for things that are important to countries other than ourselves. We have reasoned positions on issues. We tend not to be ideological, so we're going to be far right or far left on issues. We are moderate in our views, and we tend to be very pragmatic and solution oriented. So we don't like to go to meetings and talk into the beyond. We like to try to facilitate outcomes.
So Jamaica big boat here.
Yeah, when people differ, we like to try to facilitate and bring their views together. So we are very widely respected for that. And we have also had massive economic success at a time when a lot of difficult, comparatively to what is happening with a lot of countries who have been suffering a lot of job loss and economic recessions after COVID, who have not been able to recover. And Jamaica, as a small island, open, vulnerable, developing country, has been able to not only emerge from COVID without any job losses in the public sector, and having retained most of what we had in the private sector. Remember, we
somebody said which
support,
Jamaica you talk about?
The Jamaica you and me live in. That Jamaica, same one. Same one. And this is not to say that we don't have challenges.
Can I stop you for a second, Minister?
Because this is not to say we don't have challenges.
Let me tell you why I'm stopping.
Why? But this is reality.
I know, but here's why I'm stopping you. We have to address this point.
Okay.
There is a group of people who get up every day and they never see anything good about their country.
I don't know how
they go on social media
and treat it like
they see the road a fix and them say a thief money. Them see the hospital a build, them say no, we build a hospital. They see all these great things happening, and a lot of them believe in themselves that good things are happening, But they have a vested interest in trying to convince some in the diaspora that nothing now go on.
But why?
My father come down the other day and he hasn't been here for 3 years thereabout. And him almost get lost because the place is so different.
Right.
Because the Ministry of Foreign Affairs building wasn't there.
Yes, so
right?
changed.
Grace building wasn't there. Downtown Kingston was being uplifted. The roads were better off. Right. And the reason why I wanted to go back into that conversation about why is it that so many people outside of Jamaica see such great things happening here, but somebody was brave enough to come and ask which Jamaica you are talking about.
No, same Jamaica, same one we live in, same one. Because the reality is that there are a lot of things that are happening here that are not happening elsewhere in the world, and we are therefore, a lot of countries want to understand, because what we have done has not been easy. It has been extremely difficult. I mean, I remember when I talked to people, friends of mine who, during COVID, they were like, boy, times are boring. You can't do nothing. You can't. I'm like, boring. That's got to be the most stressful part of my entire life and experience, because we met from morning to evening to try to take the right strategic decisions that would help to balance people, safety, security, as well as health and mental health. And it was very difficult. One of the things that we did, as a matter of fact, which we're down today, I don't know if you remember, because of the nature of COVID, BPOs were being shut down everywhere.
I don't like call centers because they're more than that, but that's what people know them as.
They were being shut down everywhere across the world. Right. And what we did was we changed our regulations to allow them to continue to operate. So
people kept their jobs.
So people kept their jobs and people continued to have businesses here. And Jamaica, therefore, became a trusted destination. Mm-hmm. So we entered COVID with must be 40,000 people employed in BPOs. And it's now 60,000.
But Minister, a lot of people don't believe. A lot of people don't realize how hard it was for the world in COVID and how Jamaica was able to survive.
People forget, but we're very well respected for how we managed our tourism, recovered faster because we developed special regulations again to adapt to the circumstances. They may not have been perfect.
What they call it, the corridor again?
Yes,
the corridor that you guys set up so that we could. Because what was happening, Minister, was that we have over 100,000 tourism workers, and they were losing their jobs because of COVID.
Absolutely, they had food to buy, they had car loan to pay, they had. They had
people don't remember how rough it was in COVID.
It was very difficult. A lot of things, and we were able to provide money for the most vulnerable, which Jamaica has never been able to do before in a crisis.
What do you mean provide money? Explain better.
Remember, we gave additional money to past beneficiaries,
right?
So that they were. We gave money to persons who were able to prove that they had lost their employment within the last year.
Hairdressers.
We gave a grant to taximen. Entertainers who lost their jobs. If they registered with the Ministry of Culture, they were also able to claim. There was a whole lot that was given back to people to help to cushion the worst. Jamaica has never been able to do that. And we used
money. Somebody say you did give them care package.
And the care packages. The care packages.
TikTok is helping me with this interview.
And all of that, we fundraised for that.
Yes.
We got funds in from the diaspora. I don't know if you remember.
So tell us about the role that the diaspora played, because a lot of our listeners are from the diaspora.
Yeah, they played a huge role. Because that's
the next section of the interview.
So a lot of countries, their remittances fell over COVID, but Jamaica's remittances went up. And that's because people kept sending money to family. People kept ensuring that the people who they were used to taking care of were still taken care of. And what that helped was to still keep foreign exchange coming into the economy, even though it was still a challenging time. So that was a major way in which
the diaspora helped too.
They also helped with our laptop program. The Consul General in New York alone was responsible for negotiating rates with Best Buy, negotiating free shipping with diaspora shippers. We had, I think there was Furtado's and there was Williams. We had Jamaicans who have shipping companies in New York who are willing to take our things
and ship it.
And I think Grace helped us with moving because we had some things that they were given to us. I don't remember in what state, and we needed to get them in New York because in New York we were going to be able to send them by send them free shipping to Jamaica.
So in COVID, your consulates not only were doing the regular things that they needed to do, but they actually were helping in the humanitarian side in trying to.
Absolutely. I had J1 workers who were laid off in
Canada.
J1
workers, Minister?
They're the seasonal hospitality workers who get a special visa to go. They're like the tourism equivalent of farm workers. Right. And they had all of the hotels had closed.
And
they didn't, and the borders were, there was all sorts of issues, and we had to work out how they were going to get home and what was going to happen to them in between.
But remember, in that time, people were saying that you lock out Jamaicans and lucky in COVID.
I'd have nothing to say to those people because those people need some help.
And the reason why I raise it, because I think you need to explain it, because I remember there were instances where when people were coming into Jamaica not declaring that they had COVID and not wanting to isolate.
No, that was very, very difficult, because I think, people needed to remember how...
Corn Peas, so remember it started in Harborview.
It started with someone coming in with COVID. Right.
And
who
went
did
to
not declare.
Goshen in
That was-
Clarendon.
That person went to visited more family and friends in a matter of a week than a whole lot of us would ever do. And that caused issues. That's where it all started. But I wouldn't want to focus on that.
What I want to go to before we leave, because we only have 10 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
So your
We're
ministry
not talking
is at
about
the...
all the other help that we bring into this country. No, but seriously, through
Tell me.
Japan,
Let's
we just finalized an arrangement to get 5 new ambulances and 33 pickups, that some of which are going to go into the Pradial Lasny units across the
So
island.
5 new ambulances.
Yeah.
And how much pickups?
33. And then
That's Japan.
Yes. Plus they're giving us 6 boats. We have 3 already, and we're getting the other 3. 3 going to the Defense Force, 3 to police, to help us with our
That's what's
our
negotiated by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Supported us and finance. So we always work very closely with finance on these things.
What else have you done recently?
What have we done recently? Now that you ask me, now I feel, but there's all of that. And I mean, and not just the other day.
Fertilizer a while back though.
We just got our third free, how many tons of fertilizer from Morocco, again negotiated.
And you got scholarships from Morocco too.
We got scholarships from Morocco as well. And, even let me speak about something that's very recent, because we're just, I went up to the Independence Gala with the Prime Minister, and we spoke to investors, and we met with the diaspora, etc. And people might say, why would you travel to go to an Independence Gala? Apart from the fact that my flight was sponsored. Anyway, so it's not a cost to them. Just to say that the people there, the event, first of all, fundraises. It's primarily a fundraiser.
That was the
and
Independence
you are
Gala
one of the draws.
What happened recently?
Yes. Last year at the Independence Gala, we were able to give 16 scholarships out of it by oxygen concentrators. Adriana Lang, you remember we needed to find $25,000 within 24 hours to pay for the ambulance.
That's the little girl from Westmoreland?
Or she would have that. The little girl from Westmoreland who lost her 4 brothers in the fire.
But hold on, stop, pause on that, because I needed to talk about that a little. What role did the ministry play in that whole situation? Because I remember the fire and the country was devastated.
We found the money for her to get and help to coordinate with the ambulance, working with the San Myrna Foundation. For her, she had a 24-hour window.
But people are cussing in the papers that the government don't do anything.
No, we got them. We were able to convince some donors who had given money for coming out of the fundraising for the gala to divert 25,000 to Adriana, to match the funds that were already raised by San Myrna, so she could get out in 24 hours and get her surgeries, 26,000 surgeries. And
by the way,
the
TikTok says that TikTok says hello, Cardi Senior on the video. So every facial expression you make, TikTok is recording it.
Oh my goodness! So we have helped in crisis situations like that. Little Jermaine, who needed a pacemaker the other day. A lot of people don't know that we helped to facilitate getting his new pacemaker so that it could be.
So why you don't tell people these things, Minister?
Oh Lord, there's so much work. The time to talk about everything is very hard. There's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I'm sorry.
So you help
because
with the girl who was burned, you help with the pacemaker,
yes,
you get in ambulances.
And we tried to help with the policewoman who had gone up with the liver failure, but it just wasn't possible. And that is, so she went up and we were trying to facilitate with her in hospital, but she did not find a donor and she did not fit within their category. I don't advise people to just go up, by the way, and hope that the system will work for them. That's very difficult and very, very risky. But yeah, there's a lot that's done. And with all of this, we're dealing with trade. Let's not forget trade. Can we say something about trade? Foreign affairs and foreign trade. So we are responsible for the policy and the agreements that allow for trade, for the preferential export of our products, our goods. So we have, I don't know if you remember, we had a EU economic partnership agreement that allows us to send goods duty-free to Europe. It allows to go both ways, but scaled with us and not with them. And when Brexit occurred, then the UK wasn't going to be a part of that. And the UK was one of our major export partners. And we were able to negotiate a parallel agreement, which was signed in 2019 to ensure predictability. So you can send duty-free goods to the UK.
So if I want to export, let's say...
Go to the Trade Board website to look at what you can export. There's also a trade portal. There is the... TIP, the JTIP, Jamaica Trade Information Portal, that has all of the tariff information that you would need. The Trade Board, which sits under the Ministry of Investment and Commerce, actually manages that aspect, but we deal with the production of the agreements. We have one with Cuba, we have CARICOM agreements with Costa Rica, etc. We have the US one, which we were able to negotiate the extension of it to 2030 because it was going to expire 2 years ago. One of the things we did was to get that extended within the WTO. I mean,
but I hear that we're going to have free travel to Caribbean as workers now.
Oh, free movement.
Right.
That came out of the 45th CARICOM heads meeting, the CARICOM 50 celebration. It was decided in Trinidad, heads decided that they wanted to not only just celebrate the year, they wanted to have something monumental to show for the 50th year of CARICOM, when Jamaica, Guyana, Barbados, and Trinidad started CARICOM as the founding countries. And we always believe that free movement is one of the best ways that CARICOM can show its value to the average citizen of Jamaica. And what it will mean is that the skills certificate, you won't need it again.
So you can
you will be able to move and work.
So what if I'm a carpenter?
But
can I just go to Trinidad?
But no, it's not in place now.
It's
supposed to be in place at the end of March 2024. But there is a lot of work that's needed because remember, they still haven't decided. That's hobby as well, so he exists. So, I'm giving all the proof. They have to decide
2 minutes, Minister.
Whether you need a passport or a driver's license, whether they need to decide what will that travel entitle you to. So will you be able to get free education? If so, to what level? Free healthcare? If so, to what extent? All of these things still have to be worked out.
Does your ministry have anything to do with farm workers?
We try to help to support the Ministry of Labor, who manages the farm work program. So we clearly are responsible for the relationship.
So when we're going to get more farm work?
We continue to advocate for the expansion of the programs, which have expanded massively over the past couple of years.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, even during COVID, we were able to work with Canada to continue the chartered movement of our farm workers, so that they were not out of work for the whole of COVID. And we work with the US as well. They have, in fact, part of the reason that a lot of people have such long wait times for their tourist visas with the US is because they have expanded their hospitality and farm work programs. So we build on we help to secure the relationships that keep these programs going. That's what we do, but we don't run the programs.
Last question before we go. Where are you going next?
Cuba for G77 and China.
What is G77?
There is a group of countries that sit together within the UN that discuss issues relevant to developing countries, and Cuba is hosting and is president, so they will be doing it. It will be my first trip to Cuba, and right after that I leave there and go to the UN for UN Week, the same week that you asked me about, but did not allow me to tell you about it.
You mean the UN General Assembly?
General Assembly.
But you will be back.
Which will be a series of meetings, just consistent bilateral and multilateral meetings. Yeah.
We will be back. We have run out. I didn't even realize that we ran out of time, Nadine. Can we get an extra half an hour?
I didn't speak about climate change. I didn't speak about diaspora conference. I didn't speak
about... When is diaspora conference, by the way?
Next year. Next year is going to be a big one. I didn't speak about Ukraine. I didn't speak about Haiti.
But you're taking care of the Haitians, though.
Yes, we're taking care of the Haitians.
The welfare. And
the process is underway. They remember they have applied for asylum now.
Right.
So they're going through all of the files, all of the assessments. And remember, we, unlike many other countries, actually have a policy, which is something that the Freedom Imaginaries have actually congratulated us on. That unlike a lot of other Caribbean countries, they don't have a refugee policy or a set process. We are going through it. We are well within all the timelines, and we're trying as best as possible to work with and not in an adversarial manner with the lawyers that represent.
And with that, we have to go. It's 12:01. I have overstepped my time by a minute. Thank you very much, Minister Kamina.
Thank you for listening, and I hope we answered some of your questions. And
we also are on Instagram.
Interesting.
And we're also on Facebook and YouTube.
Oh, hi,
and
everybody. I thought it was just TikTok.
And our Love 101 family.
Yes,
the family station. Thank you for having us. All the people who are here will help us every week. Give thanks. Until next week, 11 o'clock, it's Good Morning Minister on Love 101. Take it away, Nadine.